is to you, is that why Bitcoin is inevitable? It's a human system. People still have to work and educate and bring people to the system to run forever on its own. But if humans don't adopt it, then it doesn't matter. Is it the people coming here like that, like the Aladdins, like the Corys, like the Dantes, the Sams? I mean, like, what is it to you that gives you the most hope?
There's certainly a human layer to Bitcoin, undeniably. Right, all of the Bitcoiners, this social layer, as it's sometimes called, to Bitcoin. Man, being around Bitcoiners is absolutely incredibly inspiring. It does make me full of hope. Whenever I go to a Bitcoin conference, I'm always reminded of that. It's what Bitcoin represents. It is hope. This hope for a better future. This hope that we can escape from this rigged system.
Mr. Brady Swenson, thank you so much, brother, for coming on today, being a playable character in a sea of non-playable characters. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Yes. So we were talking a little bit offline again, just about Bitcoin trading cards, Swan. There's so many things to kind of dig into, but I want to get your story, just your origin story, and not like your orange pill story, but kind of why you fight for Bitcoin. You started obviously Citizen Bitcoin, that turned into Swan Signal basically, and then you kind of retired everything, right? So I would love for you to kind of like, what is it that you fight for in Bitcoin, and kind of talk about that story, and in really building up, quite quickly, having a lot of big people on your pod, and putting that all together, what it led into, and again, why you fight. Is it the human rights stuff, the energy, things of that nature? What is it that is you? Is it macro? So I'd love for you to kind of jam on all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah. So, I mean, what is it about me and sort of my core character traits that really draws me to Bitcoin? I think it is really kind of comes down to human rights stuff. It's fairness, I guess, a sense of justice. I was drawn to politics for a long time, and my family is big into politics,
Same.
Democratic politics in Kansas, which is, it's a red state, but it's not as red as people might think. And it's always kind of been sort of a more independent kind of independent minded state. And so we'd always have like a Democratic governor and a Republican Congress, in the state, and or vice versa. So it'd always kind of be deadlocked basically. And Kansas were always like really smart about that. It seemed to always work out that way. And so my family was in Democratic politics, and so there was this sense of justice, like, let's make this society as fair and just as possible, and we're going to fight for that. And this is one way that we can influence society. And I got really disillusioned with it after a while. And I found this guy named Lawrence Lessig, and he wrote a book called Republic Lost. And he's a Harvard law professor. And this was like Occupy Wall Street time, roughly. So 2008, right around the time that Bitcoin was released, the white paper was published, and all of that, Occupy Wall Street stuff was happening. And it was all about this sense that the system is rigged, right? The political system is rigged. The economic system, the financial system is rigged against the 99%. That was the meme, right? The 1%, the 99%.
Yep.
And that really spoke to me. And this book was like basically saying like, okay, well, our political system has been completely rigged. It's completely bought by corporations and special interests, and et cetera. And here's what it was supposed to be: this more decentralized kind of government representing different ideas. And we have 50 different political experiments happening around the world, around the country. And you could, move to different jurisdictions as suited you. And we'd have them all sort of loosely affiliated through a federal government, and federal government would be responsible for a few things, but this otherwise, the power would go to the states, and then to the counties, and then to the cities, and it would, decentralize the power. So that really spoke to me. Like, I felt that was the way that things should be, which turned out to be a conservative idea, quote unquote, which was, I didn't think that way. I didn't think it was. I thought it was just like the just way to do it. I saw it as a justice issue. And so from my mind, it was a liberal way to do it. And that was just the semantics in my head. It was all semantics. But basically the idea was power became too centralized. And so I was like coming to these ideas at the same time Bitcoin was coming out. So 6 years later or so, I found Bitcoin 2014. I didn't understand it. I didn't connect it. Like, oh, it's part of this. It's like part of fixing this problem I've been thinking about for a while now. It was interesting from a technical perspective. Like I've been working on the web for a long time, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. A new kind of like decentralized money. It's some money for the people. That's cool. But I didn't really think about it deeply. And so I was like, I'll grab some. And I didn't end up making like connecting my bank account. There was some problem with Coinbase and their customer service was like, notoriously terrible. I have a great actually Citizen Bitcoin episode with Eric Kaysen, who is a really early like
That's
manager, client services at Coinbase. And hit the first 15 minutes of that episode is him just like unloading because it was the first time he'd talked publicly about all of this. It's really funny. So anyway, I didn't end up getting any Bitcoin in 2014, but in 2017 I came across it again, and then I figured it out. I was like, oh, okay, like this is fascinating. And it was Andreas who did it for me. I found it. I found one Andreas video, and then I watched everyone that I could find over a month or two period. And that was early 2017. So all of 2017 was me just trying to figure things out. I wasn't a Bitcoin maximalist right away. There's all kinds of other, I looked at Ethereum and Cardano, and I traded shitcoins trying to make more Bitcoin, and trying to figure out the block size debate, who's going to win. I tried to like hedge my bets between like Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin. I held like 50-50 for a while after the fork. And yeah, eventually I became a Bitcoiner. I figured it out, put all my Bitcoin in, or all my crypto into Bitcoin. And that was about the end of 2018. Part of that process was recording Citizen Bitcoin with my friend here at this co-working space that I'm in. And he and I had just started talking about it. And we were like, let's record our conversations once, every other week, and we'll publish them. I didn't really promote them that much, and we had like maybe 100 downloads per episode. But it was a forcing function for us to like try to really understand what we were saying, because we're putting these thoughts out there publicly, and we don't want to like sound like an idiot even to 100 people. So I finally felt like that was all of 2018. So I finally felt like, okay, I'm ready to like do something for real with this podcast. And so I decided to start interviewing people and made a list of the top 10 people. I was like, if I can get these people on my podcast, it'll take off. And I got 9 of them almost right out of the gate. Adam Back was the 10th one. And I ended up getting him on my podcast. No, I'm not sorry. Not Adam Back. Andreas was the 10th one. And I think he ended up coming on at like episode 90 or something like that, which was really cool. I finally got him. So he finally completed all 10. Adam Back was one. He came on early too. A bunch of people came on early. Bitcoiners are really, really cool. Like just reach out and they're happy to help like a Bitcoiner with a new project. So I try to pay that forward as much as I can. And it took off. There was a lot less competition back then in terms of Bitcoin podcasts, way less. I mean, there were maybe, like 5, 6, 7, like legit Bitcoin only podcasts. So I had one of the top 5, 6, 7 podcasts in the States. But it did, it got some traction, and there were, some people that really liked it, some big fans, which was really fun. And it really allowed me to network into the space. I met everybody. And then I went to Bitcoin 2019. This was about 6 months after I had started interviewing people. So I knew quite a few people and got to meet everybody in person and network further. And I met Cory there, and I met Jan there. And Cory had just started Give Bitcoin, which eventually turned into Swan. And from that conversation, he came on my podcast a few months later toward the Q4 in the holiday season. And then he followed up with me after we had that conversation and said, hey, I really enjoyed that podcast. What do you do? Let's, I want to get to know you a little bit more. What do you do for a living? And so I was like, I've been working on the web for 25 years. And right now, like lately, I've been doing a bunch of marketing stuff the past 6 or 7 years. And he's like, perfect. So you want to come do some marketing for Give Bitcoin? I was like, I would love to. Yeah. So I started kind of on the side doing some contract work. And that was it basically. I very quickly went full time, and we launched Swan a few months later when we realized that Bitcoiners were joining Give Bitcoin to use the recurring gift function to DCA Bitcoin for themselves. And that was the,
Yeah.
that was like, oh, okay, so this is what people want to use it for. So we'll just build a Bitcoin only DCA product. So
Huh.
anyway, that's how it started. And excuse my voice. Sorry, I've kind of lost my voice. I went and watched Lionel Messi play this past weekend, and it was very loud at Arrowhead Stadium. So there's
That's
lots of
so
yelling.
cool, man. That's
Yeah,
dang.
that was
That's
awesome.
wow. That's once in a lifetime right there.
Had to do it. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's incredible. What so I was just telling you I was gonna interview Cory later, but I'm gonna probably do him later this week. So I'll ask you guys like questions to piggyback off each other. Your thing, I guess first, like, what do you think your thing is? Is it like that the marketing space, like computer science, or like just web stuff, web development? And then
Yeah,
so what's your answer on that? And also, what is Cory saying? Like to me, I'll give my opinion first. And he seems like such a relationship builder. That was my first experience with Cory like 2 years ago.
yeah,
Like he just DM'd me because I tweeted back at him or something like that, and he read my profile and he's like, "Hey, dude, like former pro hockey player, like, dude, we got to get your story." Like, invited me on a cafe Bitcoin, whatever. And it just like, and you just told stories similar to that. Like, he reached out to you. Like, it just seems like he's
yeah,
kind of a connector or relationships, like people
yeah.
person type of thing. So I'd love your answer on both those. I'm going to ask the same thing to him, like, and see what he says.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it 1,000%. I would have said instantly that he is a world class networker, and a relationship builder. Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He is absolutely world class at that. His network is incredible, um, and it's genuine. It's not like he does it to for some end purpose, like
Mm-hmm.
solely for some end purpose, right?
Right.
Like it's valuable to network. Everyone knows that, and of course he's aware of that. But it's not the sole purpose. Like he.
We want to thank our sponsor. This show is presented by Bitcoin Trading Cards, an orange pill in a pack, making talking about things that normally make you want to cry fun and easy. The scarcest and most educational cards to ever exist. Available now.
Genuinely connects with somebody and tries to find a way to bring value to the relationship as well. And so he's not just taking. That's how you build a valuable network. Is you're giving, often giving more than you receive back from it. And yeah, his network has been huge. In the startup space, they call it an unfair advantage. What's your unfair advantage? Investors
Yeah.
want to know what it is, right? And that's a common question in the fundraising scene. Well, one of Swan's unfair advantages is Cory's world-class networking abilities and the network he's already built. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's brought a lot of opportunities in to Swan, this network that he's built over the course of his career and life. So yeah, and he's just a really good person. He's just a really solid human being. He really cares about people, and he's funny. I don't know. He's fun to be around. He's fun to hang out with. He's got good energy.
Yeah.
And he's also just really smart. But I think the killer like app of Cory, the killer app of Cory is networking for sure. Uh, man, I don't know. For me, like I don't even know. I think I think I work. I think I'm a I think I'm a good leader. I think I'm fun to work with. I think I bring like make people comfortable, bring like the best out of small teams. Like I think I would be a really good like sports coach, for instance.
Mm.
If I coached a basketball team, I think I'd be really good at it if I ever had the chance to do it. So I
Mm-hmm.
see it sort of as the same way I sort of approach like um, pulling teams together, like especially creative teams, and like really getting people's energy and like creative energy and juices flowing and making it fun so that people want to come to work and really want to be there and hang out and spend time and do their best, their best work and really come up with something amazing. So I think I'm, yeah, if I were going to pick like one like work related or even just like life related ability, I think it's bringing people together, creating space. And it's another thing that like Cory and I kind of have in common too, and he's great at throwing parties. So like this is like we have two sort of brand principles at Swan, like two principles that have built the Swan brand, and one of them is be the media and just a really aggressive content marketing strategy,
Yep.
And the other one is throw the party. Like we do Swan salons in Miami and LA every month. We do PB, Pacific Bitcoin, every year. We do online events every month. We're doing more and more one-off in real world events. We do sponsorships and stuff. Like we did BitBlock Boom this past weekend. And so there were a lot of like Swan related kind of events in real IRL events there. So they're both relationship building strategies, right? They're both networking strategies, like we were just talking about. The content marketing strategy is building relationships at scale, right? So it's more like one to many. So like this podcast, we're having this conversation, but people listening to us or people listening to any Swan media content are building a relationship with the people that are producing it, right? So whether it's me on Swan Signal or now Sam on Swan Signal or Dante on Bitcoin Daily Show, they're building relationships with Swan through those people, right? And then in person, it's one-to-one, right? It's more real kind of high def, in real life interaction, and it's maybe more long lasting over time because you build a deeper connection. But they're both relationship building strategies, and so Cory and I are both I guess I'm kind of naturally a relationship builder too, just not to the same scale as Cory is. I think he's maybe more of an extrovert than I am, but I think we're really similar in that sense. So like be the media, build relationships that way, and throw the party, build relationships that way. So he and I were both party throwers growing up. Like we've talked about this many times. Like we were the one in our groups who were like organizing the parties, had the party house where everybody came to hang out at, it's just,
it shows
that kind of vibe. Yeah. Which is a great skill to have in your professional life, it turns out.
Yeah, it is. It makes me think of Gary Vaynerchuk, the high school party rule he has, where it's like there's like the kid that's like no one really knows, or like he's like half, in popularity is half, right? But if he throws the party, he automatically is like in the upper echelon of like popularity now.
Yes, exactly. I've not heard that, but yes, that's completely true.
Yeah, it's literally the high
I've
school
got those
party rule.
stereotypical like high school party hosting stories that you see in the movies and stuff. I've got several of those. Yeah,
it's so funny.
And college, for that matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is interesting, and it's like it is a networking skill, I guess.
Yeah,
it comes down to it. Yeah.
It is. And like in your personality, I've always enjoyed being around you, and you're incredibly busy. So I have not been able to be around you as much as I would like, but your personality is very calming, very authentic, kind of what you said about Cory in a way. Like you said, he's a little more maybe energetic and out there and extroverted in a way, but our personalities I think are a little bit more similar. So I've always vibed with you in that sense, where you have an authentic and calming personality, and which you need that yin and yang, obviously. But like Dante, like you said, Dante and Sam, like those guys, man, two of the smartest guys that I know. I mean, it's just wild. Like their intelligence level is just next level. To touch on that if you want about them, really, if you want to. But my other question to you was Aladdin. Actually, I wanted to ask you about Aladdin. So advising Bitcoin trading cards as well, kind of skipping around here a little bit, but it just made me think of Aladdin. What do you think his like genius zone is, or like his superpower, or something that kind of just has always resonated with you, or just like, dang, he's got this? Is there anything that kind of comes to mind, or why you said yes to, helping advise and helping with Bitcoin trading cards?
Yeah, I think there's like three things about Aladdin. One is I think he has something kind of similar to what I just described about myself, which is like bringing like really smart, creative people together and inspiring them to do really great work, and like organizing, that project with creatives. Obviously really good at that. That's what Bitcoin trading cards is. Yeah. But he's also an incredibly talented creative himself, right? So just by himself, like just his artwork is beautiful and amazing. Blows me away. And then he's also a fantastic salesman and like entrepreneur. So the kind of conversations that he'll sit down, he'll go into like, he's like, I'm going to have a call with so-and-so with this like huge printer, for instance, right? They print like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. I'm going to sit down and talk with them. So it's this tiny little project. And like, we talk pretty much every Friday. And so he's like, okay, well, how'd it go last week when you had that call? And he's like, oh my God, man, it was like, they love us. Like it's like, they're going to print our project, and it's like 10 times smaller than any project they ever printed before. Right. I'm just like, how did you do that? Like, how did you make that happen? But he just does that over and over again. And he just has this just infectious charisma, or like just passion for what he's doing, and just conviction in what he's doing. And he's able to relay that in just this really undeniable way. So yeah, he's a special human being, man. Aladdin's pretty cool. I really loved the project when I really sat down and looked at it. But then when I met Aladdin, I was just like, yeah, I gotta, somehow work with this guy in some capacity, because he's so cool.
Did you, so again, we'll kind of curtail some of this, not to go off and like talk about other people the entire time. But
It's fine.
it is
I like talking
important.
about other people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. And it's like, yeah. And that's your personality, right? It's like, give and you shall receive. Right. So again, it's very cool, but there's not a lot of podcasts in a sense where you're sitting there talking about other people, and not in a malicious way, obviously, but talking about the good things about other people. So it's kind of an interesting, just exercise to do, I think, in general. But what do you think it is about, Bitcoin? Bitcoin attracts people like this, like some of the smartest people. I mean, like, is to you, is that why Bitcoin is inevitable in a way? Like, why do you think like Bitcoin, it's a human system, people still have to work and educate and bring people to the system. Bitcoin could run forever on its own, but if humans don't adopt it, then it doesn't matter. So, I mean, is it the people coming here like that, like the Aladdins, like the Corys, like the Dantes, the Sams? I mean, like, what is it to you that really gives you the most hope?
The most hope?
Yeah.
Or hope? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting question. There's certainly a human layer to Bitcoin, undeniably, right? All of the Bitcoiners, this social layer, as it's sometimes called, to Bitcoin. And I mean, man, being around Bitcoiners is absolutely incredibly inspiring. And it does make me full of hope. Whenever I go to a Bitcoin conference, I'm always reminded of that. And I think it's what Bitcoin represents is hope, this hope for a better future, this hope that we can escape from this rigged system that we were just talking about at the top of the show. Like, it's undeniable that stuff is bad and wrong. Like, things are, it's just, and once you start figuring out, okay, it's rigged. It's somehow rigged. The rich and powerful are getting more rich and powerful. And these are these sayings, that just these tropes that we've grown up with, like the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, like like a truism. It's just a truism. Like, it's something you say that people just like, this is the way things are. And it's true that this is the way things are, but now we have something that gives us some hope that we can break that cycle, right? And stay out of it, or at least stay out of it to this extent, and make it better. So I think the people who are drawn to Bitcoin are people who have a sense of justice and understand that there is this injustice that's happening, and recognize that Bitcoin is a tool for justice, and that we recognize that we can help it in some way or another, move, to increase adoption of this tool. And so a lot of us there's nothing more important that we could work on, nothing that will have more impact in the world that we could work on. And it's the type of people who just want to have an impact on the world, right? Like, I joined the Peace Corps after college, same kind of drive. Like, I just wanted to have some kind of impact on the world. I wanted to go somewhere where I could have like demonstrable sort of like good feedback about the impact I was having on that community, for instance, because it was a small community. I had resources that I could bring to bear and try to help make this one school a better place for the students, and this one community a healthier place to be, or like, and I listened to them and tried my best to like humbly go about that work. And it changed me way more than I changed that community. Right. So we all get that back too. That's one of the things I love about working on a mission driven project is you learn so much about yourself and you improve yourself at such a rate beyond what you would do if you were engaged in work that wasn't that inspiring to you, wasn't really a mission driven thing. It was just to, so that you could bring home a paycheck. So it is a bit of a privilege, and it's also, it's also earned. It's partly earned, probably partly privileged in cases to be able to work on a project like this, like be able to work on Bitcoin full time. But you have to recognize, okay, you have this privilege. What are you going to do with it? And it's also very humbling because you're, around these absolutely incredible people. The caliber of people that you work around when you're in Bitcoin is, like you were just saying, it's off the charts.
It's wild.
Yeah.
The funny part is, like, and you're constantly, like, you've been in this space for a long time. I've been in it since like 2018 or so, just seeing it and studying it. And you're constantly getting humbled. Like, I was talking to Tone Vase the other day, this weekend, and he was like, yeah, I've been making content for like 10 years, but like all of you guys came in the space and you're like a lot better than I am. It's like, it's an OG saying like, I had to like level up. I had to go do different things actually. And that's going to happen to all of us. Like, when you have the biggest companies or biggest talents in the world coming to Bitcoin eventually, it literally will just crowd out all of us at some point. So it's like the weirdest dynamic ever. Like, your spot might be that big or whatever it is, if you want to call it that. And it's like, eventually you just get, casted to the side eventually, and someone better than you
Bitcoin's
comes in
upgrading itself constantly.
Exactly. It's like, the system's constantly upgrading itself, and it just discards like all the rest of us. And it's the most wild thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
It's like, out of the way, Brady, here comes Natalie Brunell. Like, okay.
Yeah, literally. It's just, it's wild to even like think about. And then eventually it'll be like Sydney Sweeney. That will be all of a sudden the new Natalie Brunell. Like some like Hollywood. It like sounds weird to say, but eventually, as we know, as a Bitcoiner knows, that will be the case, where it'll be someone somewhere that replaces the current versions of all of us, who's some mega superstar, the Tom Brady of, whoever it is, and Patrick Mahomes will become a Bitcoiner. And then all of a sudden, like, he sucks all the air out of the room. It's like the wildest dynamic ever. Anyway. It's so, going back a little bit to Swan Signal and Citizen Bitcoin, two, again, really successful podcasts that you had started. What do you, like, why, and I don't think we touched on this, but why did you start that, and what do you miss about it?
Yeah, well, Citizen Bitcoin I started just because I was having conversations with my friend Tommy about Bitcoin at this co-working space, and I'm still here actually. And we'd meet over lunch or whatever. We just have a conversation. He'd see a chart like over my shoulder. He's like, "What are you looking at?" And so that's when we started talking about it. And I was listening to podcasts at that point. I was like, look, it'd be fun to just record our conversations. And I was like, at the very least, it'll help us, like, make us do the work and try to understand it and come up with some original thinking about what we're looking at on our own. And so we did that. And like I said, every other week we record 30, 45-minute show. If you go to the Citizen Bitcoin feed, they're still there. Like the first, 20 episodes is like every other week in 2018, we had these conversations. And it's kind of, pretty cringy to go back and listen to it, like, for me, but it's also kind of sweet and nostalgic. Like, it was fun. So started it really just to force ourselves to learn and to read and to, like, understand what we were talking about. It's like the idea of, like the best way to learn is to teach kind of idea. Not that we were really out there teaching it, but we were giving our opinions and talking about it and trying to explain things. So effectively we were, and that's why we did it. And it worked. Like, it worked really well. We both got a much better understanding of Bitcoin. Like, if you listen to the first few episodes, we're talking about Litecoin and Cardano and all this kind of stuff, and we're not really quite sure what to make of it all. And you can kind of get the evolution of, like, a Bitcoiner through, we were pretty much there because we pretty much got there through 2017. But the first few episodes are interesting. But we kind of started, like, by the third or fourth episode, we were pretty much like, all right, we're Bitcoin maxis now, Anyway, so that was it. And then again, like, I started interviewing people because I really wanted the podcast to, like, actually grow. I wanted to make it a bigger deal.
Yeah.
And so I basically asked my friend Tommy, I was like, look, I'm going to interview these people now. Do you like, is that cool with you? I'm kind of pivoting the podcast. And we still did a show once a month where we did like a news show, and we'd bring in a Bitcoiner to hang out with us. So it'd be like Ansel Lindner or Guy Swan, a couple other people I can't think of right now would come in and like do a news review for the month with us. So that's what I did with Tommy. So we've got those for all through 2019 as well. And then Tommy kind of went off to do other things. But anyway, that was Citizens Bitcoin. Swan Signal, I did both of them at the same time for a while. They overlapped.
Yeah.
Swan Signal started during March of 2020. Like there was the COVID crash in the markets and in Bitcoin, and it like crashed down to like 3,000, 4,000 something. I think it wicked down to maybe 4,000 or 3, something like that. It got really low. And it was like 4 or 5, 6K for a long time after that. So the night that it got completely nuked, I messaged Cory. We hadn't even launched the product yet, but we were getting close. And I was like, we got to go online. We got to go like live tomorrow and like talk to our people, talk to the Bitcoiners because morale is low right now. And so he's like, yeah, absolutely. So we got John Vallis and Gigi and Guy Swan and Friar Haas, and then Cory and Jan and me. And we just had this big 2-hour session just talking, sort of going through feelings and like what was it like in the last bear market, and like when have you felt like this before, to like Friar Haas and Guy, who had been around for a long time. And so we're just kind of telling stories, and it was great. It was awesome. And so I was like, let's do this. Like I like bringing multiple people together. I like that idea. Let's just pair people up. But nobody's doing that. Let's pair people up. We'll make cool combos, and I'll host a conversation with 2 people. And we'll keep it in a small, tight, rotating group, 30 people or so, kind of in that group, like the bigger names, and we'll just mix and match them into different combos.
That's cool.
So kind of like Meet the Press. Meet the Press is like been running for like 65 years or something, and it's just like there's a small sort of group of people in the press that they'll bring into that show, and they sort of mix and match them. So that was the idea. And so we started the very next week, and I think it was Marty and Parker or something, maybe then the next week for the first episode, where we paired people up, and we just did that continuously. And it was I think it's a really cool show, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I had a ton of fun doing it. We don't always do pairs anymore, but I loved the concept, and we did that like religiously for a couple of years.
That's so cool. Yeah, it is a great idea. You don't see it a lot, which is really unique.
Yeah, sometimes, like Peter will do it sometimes. Sometimes, it's like a one-off here or there, but
right.
Yeah, as a concept in and of itself,
it is.
Yeah.
So the last couple of questions here before we're getting towards the end. The last year obviously has been crazy. The bear market, all kinds of stuff. Swan. People come after Swan, which like as Alex Stanzik says, it's just in the Bitcoiner world, you get the wheel, right, and you just spin it, and then eventually it's your turn to get hammered, right? What can you touch on? Like, what do people not? You kind of touch on this with Cory in a way, and like who he is and what people don't know. Like Cory could easily be in like Silicon Valley or Wall Street, like doing stuff, really shitcoining, really out there in the fiat matrix on the Titanic, rearranging deck chairs. He has the context to do it, but he's not. He's in the Bitcoin world doing on the mission. So what do people not understand about Swan? Like, what are maybe some misconceptions, things you see here from a macro level, being in the position you're in? Like, what do people not understand about Swan that maybe they should?
Well, I think last year, we took some knocks, and deservedly so. Let me start with this. I think that in general, the Swan brand is well understood, is strong, because we have a lot of strong, smart people with high integrity at this business. And so I think our brand really does reflect what's going on inside the business and inside our company and our culture. So I don't think there's a big misunderstanding there. I think one like aspect of the business in our 4 years of operations that people may not get completely is what happened with Prime Trust and Fortress last year. And we've talked about this. Our business model operates because we want to separate brokerage and custody. And this is what's done in the legacy finance world. It's a best practice. In fact, it's legally mandated. And so we approached building the business this way, having a separate custodian from our brokerage business. And we operate the brokerage business, and we had a separate custodian. One, because it's, we think, probably going to be the law at some point for Bitcoin and crypto businesses. And two, it's just the best thing to do anyway, for obvious reasons, right? So if a business like Prime Trust goes bankrupt, all of those trust accounts, the customer funds, are legally separated in trust accounts. So the business money can be clawed back in a bankruptcy proceeding. The trust account money, never is, as far as I know, has never been clawed back in the bankruptcy of a trust account. So that's why we did that. And the case actually did happen, and no customer funds were lost. And in the case of Fortress, there was another mishap where there was a hack. And so we have the right model, but the inputs, the Prime Trust and the Fortress inputs, have been incorrect. And they've broken on us. So we absolutely are still committed to that model, but now we're going to build our own trust company. So we're making a Bitcoin only trust company, get rid of the attack surface that shitcoins bring along with them. We'll be able to operate it to the level of excellence that we do with the Swan brokerage, but with all the regulation and legal benefits for our clients that trust accounts bring. So I think that's something that may be misunderstood, that kind of fell out of that. But to me, it's like, from everything I've seen from the inside, it's been nothing but operating with integrity, right? From the beginning. Like, we made those choices because we thought it was the right thing to do. And we acted with integrity in the face of adversity, took a lot of lumps on the PR front. And, we pushed through, and we built our way, out of that, and our team got a lot stronger. Now we've got the Bitcoin Trust Company will be coming online this year. So I think what people will see, looking back through that whole saga, maybe there's some misunderstanding. We'll see, okay, it was really just a bunch of integrity all the way down the whole time. And I think it's almost like a hero's journey,
Mm-hmm.
that we'll kind of complete when we get that trust company up and running. Yeah.
Well said. Okay. The Bitcoin trading cards and your children, what are their thoughts?
Yeah. My kids love the Bitcoin trading cards. Absolutely love them. They ask me about it quite often. Like, did you get new cards yet? Are you getting new packs? Can I help you open packs? When I got Series 1, they both helped me open packs. I've gotten a lot more careful about opening packs now. So I limit the amount of packs that they open, which is kind of silly. But anyway, we just went wild with Series 1, and we had so much fun. They both have their sets of commons. Like, they really want the shiny foil cards. And I'm like, okay, these can be yours, but I'm going to keep them over here. Yeah. But they have their little box of commons. I'll get them out and play with them and sort them and stuff like that. So they love it. And it's one of the things I love about using this medium to educate, is that it's like, for us, and anybody of any age at this point, right, has experience with some kind of trading cards, right. Pretty much everyone. At a young point in their lives. So it's going to be nostalgic for us, and kids love it. It's just cool. Like, intuitively, for some reason, people just enjoy it. They love it. It's a little piece card. The art is cool. The info is cool. There's only so many of them. It's collectible. Like, speaks to all these sort of things that humans innately understand, even at a young age. And so, yeah, I think it's a genius idea, and my kids' reactions to, interacting with the cards is proof of it right there.
I love it.
Yeah.
I know you got to run here in a couple minutes. So we got a new segment presented by Bitcoin Trading Cards.
Oh,
you can see the boxes back here, stuff all over Brady's background as well. Little word association. So I'll go through like 10 or 12 words and just quick kind of lightning round. What comes to your mind, or like the word that maybe that comes to your mind associated with it.
Okay.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Genius.
Bitcoin ETFs.
Top of funnel.
Peter
Very
Schiff.
Very marketer answer. Peter Schiff. LARPer. I don't even think he's honest about his hate of Bitcoin at this point.
Same. Family.
Yeah. Everything.
Collectors. Hobbyists. Collectors.
My people.
Memes.
Powerful.
Politics.
Man, I'm going through so many words in my head right now with politics. I'll say fraught. Fraught. It's a fraught topic for me.
I like that. Kansas City.
Home.
Alex Gladstein.
Hero.
Intelligence agencies.
Spies.
Shitposting.
Fun.
Bitcoin trading cards.
Fun.
Citizen Bitcoin.
My ticket in.
And Swan Bitcoin.
My legacy.
Ooh, wow. Appreciate it, brother. What, last thing really quick.
Professional legacy.
yeah, exactly. I knew what you meant. What really quick before people, tell people where they can find you, but also one or two, like, who are your biggest mentors in the Bitcoin space? Maybe one or two people that you really look up to the most, or maybe you've over the years you really kind of look to.
When I was first starting Citizen Bitcoin, actually, Peter McCormick helped me a lot. I looked at, because he was such a pro at running his podcast, and he was the only one in the space who was really running it like a business. And so I hit him up. He was the second person I had on the podcast. HODLer was my first episode, and then Peter was my second episode. So I hit him up and was asking him questions, and he helped me out. And I've always sort of admired his work from afar and his dedication. And I'm going through a lot of options, but I think I'll say Brandon Quittem. He's been like in the trenches with me at Swan from the beginning, and somebody who I connected with on Citizen Bitcoin on several episodes, just really deeply. Some of my favorite ones, personal favorites, were with him, and has become a really, really close friend. And so, I've learned a ton from him. I really trust him when I have something I need to work out and talk through. I can go to Brandon, and so he's a mentor to me in a lot of ways, and just a really good friend.
That's so cool.
Go with Quittem.
Very cool. Where can people find you?
I'm at Citizen Bitcoin on Twitter. And I'm Brady at swan.com if you want to email me. And you can also find me in the Bitcoin Trading Cards Telegram room. I'm in there quite a bit.
There you go. There's the plug right there. I love it.
Yeah.
Mr. Brady Swenson, thank you for being a playable character. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks so much, Brandon. This is fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you for checking out this episode of the Playable Characters Show, brought to you by Bitcoin Trading Cards. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the future Bitcoin and financial experts we have on the show. Plus, we will be doing random big giveaways throughout different moments of shows of collectible cards, sats, merch, and more from guests, so you won't miss anything. This show does not constitute any investment advice, only freedom advice. Everything you see here is opinions from the host and the guests themselves, nothing further. Please don't trust, verify. For full transparency, I do lead marketing efforts at Bitcoin Trading Cards, where we are trying to spread freedom to all of humanity and orange pill the world, one collectible physical trading card at a time, by making things fun and easy to talk about that normally make you want to cry. You can reach me directly through my email, brandon@btc-cards.com, with any inquiries or playable character suggestions. See you on the next one.